for joining this morning. Excellent. Thank you so much for joining this morning. Thank you, Anika Zubair, Vincent Terol, and Morika Georgieva for taking the time this morning for this CSM breakfast, where we're going to talk about QBR and EBR, so quarterly business review and executive business review, the purpose, the benefits, how do we structure it, how should we run it, what should we expect. We're going to talk about everything this morning. Two things to discuss. First, if you want to put your camera on for our panelists, that would be amazing. And if you have any questions, I've put the Slido link in the chat, so feel free to put your question in Slido or join a Slido via the hashtag CSN Breakfast. And that's where you can ask all the questions. And at the end of the interview, we will go through a live Q&A where you will be able to ask a question live to our panelists. And we are now going to start. My first question is a super easy one for our panelists. I'm going to ask you three to quickly introduce yourself. Anika, could you please start?
Yeah, of course. My name is Anika Zubair. I'm the VP of Customer Success at Insighted. We're a community-based platform, and outside of the 9-to-5 job, I'm going to use Morika's line. I also run Customer Success London, or CSM LDN, and also host 2 different podcasts. I'm really excited to talk to you guys today and chat all about QBRs and EBRs, because I think it's a fun topic as as customer success evolves. But thanks for having me.
Thanks, Anika. Morika.
Morning, everyone. Morning, Alex. My name is Morika. I am the customer success team lead for EMEA at Permutive. We're a London and New York City-based startup. We work with online publishers, now advertisers, helping them create audiences online to target advertising. A very fun company to work with. I'm also part of the Customer Success Network, working with Alex and the leadership team. I look after the majority of our digital events and the fantastic ladies that run these, and super excited to kind of switch gears a little bit and be on the speaker side and see you all today. Thank you for making the time, and thanks for inviting me, Alex.
Thank you, Morika. Vincent, your time.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. Good morning. So I'm Vincent. I'm leading the customer success team at Spendesk. So Spendesk is a French company specialized in spend management. Very happy to be here again this morning to share with you and discuss this really interesting topic. Share with you my experience and what we do at Spendesk.
Probably ask people to mute themselves. We've got some background. Thank you so much, Vincent. So let's dive into this topic. First question, what should we expect from a QBR? What do we run them? Morika.
Yeah, it's a great question to start with. I think there's 2 things to think about for me. The first one is like, what value are you giving to the customer that they can't actually get elsewhere? If you're speaking to your customer and telling them things that they can find out online, or they can go into the product and download themselves and analyze that data without your help, you're probably wasting their time. So what are you giving them that they can't already have? And what is the extra value that you're adding on top of that? So how are you interpreting that, and what suggestions are you making for them to take the right next step forward?
Good. Anika, anything you would like to add on the why do we run them?
Yeah, definitely. I think with what you should expect for a QBR is what Morika already said, is around like what you can deliver and what other kind of data points or any sort of value, return on investment, anything that you can deliver to your customer. But I also do think it's a touch point for what's in it for your customer, just to realign to goals, make sure that there's an opportunity on both sides of the table. And it's also, I think, a great opportunity to align with your executive sponsors as well. Usually a lot of times, as you are a CSM working day to day, sometimes you're working with either a technical contact or maybe your main sponsor or the main end user, but a lot of times the main buyer is involved in the day-to-day conversations that a CSM is having. And I think EBR is a great moment to really align all parties that are involved, both execs from your side, so meaning from your company. I'm usually on EBR calls with my CSMs from time to time, but also for the other side's execs to also be on the same call, so that you have both sides execs able to align and make sure everyone's chasing the same goal.
Excellent. Thanks, Anika. Sorry about the noise. I think everyone is on mute now. Good. So we talked about the why, and you really highlighted both that it's really about what's in it for the customers, and it's all about what they're going to get, maybe probably online via FAQ and so on. Good. So if we think about what we want to bring, so that's the question is, what should we bring to a QBR? What are your top tips for an effective QBR with a clear outcome, clear next steps? What are your advices?
Yeah, great questions. I like to think there are two different types of topics. There are quite recurring topics you want to bring in every time, and I like to think these are around product usage, so bringing insights to your customers, how they use their products, how they benchmark. You also want sometimes to talk about product roadmap, like giving them visibility on what will come next. And I like to think there are also kind of flexible topics that will be brought in by your customer. So you may want to ask him, okay, what do you want to discuss? What would be of interest for you? It can be about, I don't know, specific content you have been publishing. It can be about, I don't know, if you have a community like we do at Spendesk, it's very interesting to discuss. So I like to think you want also to keep the room open for them to bring in topics, because in the end, you want them to get value. So you want to make sure that they are able to tackle the point they want to address with you. Good.
So product roadmap, data usage, and let them talk, probably let them bring any topic, anything that they want to talk about. It's all about really also listening to your customer during the QBR. Good. Morika, any point you would like to add?
Yeah, I think what Vincent said is super valuable, like making sure that again, at the end of the day, this session is for your customer. It's for you as well, but it's mainly for your customer. So allow them to drive the agenda where possible. I guess one of the things that we always try to bring is we go back to the goals that we set at the start of our partnership together. Maybe you have 3 or 4 strategic objectives that you're tracking. Share progress on those, share what's going well, what isn't going well is also a great place to, a QBR is a great place to start that conversation, and talk about the next steps for each of those goals. Specifically, I think if your product is working within a vertical, within an industry, so for example, Permutive, we work within the advertising and digital space, which is an industry that changes very quickly and very frequently. Try to bring to those executive industry insights, like things that they probably don't have time to read day in and day out, but would be important for them. If you are a CFO or a CDO, a chief data officer, or somebody quite senior, you probably really care about what's happening in the industry, but chances are you don't have time to sit around and look at your email for the next newsletter for a publication that you really care about. So try, based on your knowledge, to pick out a few things that you learned perhaps from your own research or from your marketing team that would really bring value to those executives. And that's like, look, this happened with the Safari and Chrome browsers, for example, over the past couple of months. How does this resonate with you? Have you seen an impact on your business? What are the steps that you're taking? How about you take this and that step, because one of my customers did that other thing. So again, coming back to this, what is it in terms of value that you can bring to the discussion, which your customer can't already get from your product?
Excellent. So goals review, but really interesting point about the industry insights. It's a good opportunity. Good. Okay. Now let's talk about customer engagement. So we all know that it's sometimes difficult to reach out to different types of customers. So if we think about first the one that are doing well, but they don't want to make the time to join the QBR. So how do you approach them? How do you engage them? Anika, what's your secret sauce?
Yeah, I think getting your customer engaged and excited is part of the job of even executing a QBR or EBR. You need to really show value. You need to kind of align with them. I would say sharing an agenda beforehand. I think Morika or Vincent already said it's just like aligning that this is for them as much as it is for you. So my CSMs tend to do a joint agenda. So very much sharing, hey, this is what we're wanting to cover. And then this is who we'd like to invite to the meeting, because it's not just a one-sided meeting. We also have our customer present on the actual EBR, so that like our main sponsor, which are usually the community managers, are reporting up to the VP of customer success, and then the community manager would actually go over some of the statistics or data points that are really valuable. But for any sort of like unhealthy or customer that doesn't want to attend, I would say not everyone does have the time to attend every QBR. So sometimes we do share things digitally as well in order to get them excited. And again, showing why we're having a QBR for their point of view rather than just for ours. Because I think we get really wrapped up in like, oh, I really need to talk to my customer. I need to know, a pulse check on how they're feeling. Are they going to renew? All those types of questions that we want to know as a CSM. But a lot of times it's important to remind the customers that don't want to attend a QBR, hey, this is going to be a great time for us to discuss your goals, what you guys wanted to do when you first started, what we are at today, and how we can get to the next steps. But also we usually like to say like something along the lines of like, you'll get a first sneak peek of some of the upcoming roadmap and product innovation that we're going to be doing in the next few months. So it would be really great for us to align on that QBR and then discuss feedback of how we can design a better roadmap with you in mind, for example. That's another common tip we like to say to get people to join the EBR meetings.
Good. And Vincent, we talked about how you can engage executive especially, and I know that at Spendesk you have a strategy around this.
Yeah, clearly. Sometimes I think when you want to do an EBR or QBR, you want to have around the table from the customer side some executive, because sometimes you want to talk about long-term strategy, long-term partnership. And the challenge is obviously to engage this executive. And what we try to do at Spendesk is to leverage our own executive. So, for example, at Spendesk, we are working for finance team. We leverage our CFO, who is also contacting directly, animating the pool of customers with executive sponsorship for, and we really try to leverage our own stakeholders to engage and to have direct connection because they share the same challenges, so it becomes more obvious, more natural to connect, to talk about finance topic. So it's way more relevant than sometimes just having the CSM reaching out of the blue.
Good. So leveraging the exec internally so that they can also partner with other exec. Good. Yeah. That's a good tip. So Anika mentioned a little bit and talked about the ones that are not doing well and that don't want to engage. So Morika, anything you would like to add, any tips on how to engage the ones that have a very low engagement, maybe very low product usage and still don't want to attend any QBR?
Yeah, it's a tricky one. I think you have to be a little bit creative about how you engage with customers. Sometimes you're just not going to be able to, and that's what they choose to how they choose to work with you. I think sharing things ahead of the meeting is a good idea, as Anika said. If you're still not able to book something, perhaps one of the things that we've considered is sending a very short summary of what you'd like to actually talk to them about. So it could be like a one-pager, it could be just in the body of the email, a couple of insights that you found out. Hey, I found that your product usage has dropped by XYZ, and I have a bunch of ideas about how you can improve this. I have noticed that some of your competitors that we work with are doing XYZ, obviously not naming names. I'd love to discuss how we can do this together a little bit better. I've attached this one pager, about things or ideas that you can implement at your workplace. I guess it's a little bit of like creating FOMO for them. Like try to think about like put yourself in your customer's shoes, like what really like excites you and what really interests you day to day about the work that you do and the software that you're using. Is that something that you can bring to them? I also think that if you're working with a customer that has low engagement, it's important to not scare them too much by saying, oh, hey, like I noticed your usage has dropped and that's terrible, we need to fix that. Talk about the opportunities instead, like to talk about the fact that you've noticed certain opportunities and you have ideas on how they can capitalize on those opportunities. And last but not least, just one thing that I wanted to say, just make sure that you're actually engaging the right person. Quite often, like we throw the word champion in customer success quite leniently. We say, oh, this is my champion because this is my point of contact. Are they really? Is that really your champion? Can you reach out to the EB? Maybe you're gonna step on someone's toes, but if you feel like you really are like dropping the ball on this customer. Maybe you do need to step on someone's toes and engage the EB. Sometimes if you go out and you speak to the right person and bring them value, they are going to end up engaging with you. It can be a little bit uncomfortable, but I don't think that anyone will decide not to renew with you because you reached out to an EB, for example. They might decide not to renew with you because you haven't brought them value. So sometimes it's good to kind of do things and ask for forgiveness later.
Good. And it's a good one around making sure that you're talking to the right person and challenging sometimes the stakeholders. Good. I will just add, if you have any questions for our panelists, feel free to add them in Slido. Put the Slido link in the chat. And we'll go through all the questions at the end of the interview. So feel free to ask your questions. So if we think about the customer segmentation and the different type of customers, sometimes you have in a company, low touch, medium touch, high touch, maybe QBRs are done in a different way depending on your customers. So how do you manage QBRs at scale? How does it work because sometimes QBR, we think about high touch customers. How does it work for low touch customers? What's your opinion, Anika?
Yeah, I definitely feel like everyone has different segmentation and a different type of customer base, what some people call high touch, other people call mid-market, and other people call SMB. So you definitely have to decide for your own business and your own team, what is high touch and what is SMB. But in my experience, you do not want to change exactly what you're having in a QBR, like the value you're bringing or what you're sharing. It's more the way you are delivering that QBR changes when you are speaking to a low touch customer. And also don't forget that some of your highest touch customers are busy people. Like if you are engaging with a VP or an exec level, they're not going to want to attend every EBR. So sometimes look at your high touch and also possibly look at giving them a digital touch or a digital approach as well. The way that we approach it is through video. We've just been trying this for a short period, so I can't say I've mastered it all, but we definitely do short form videos. So we have a digital customer success manager, and she very much records a EBR and some of the value points that we share in all our EBRs, and then shares that with the customer, and then asks them if they are looking for anything more or if there's something more that she can share. But that's kind of how we do EBRs at scale, is just pre-recorded with product roadmap, with ROI that they're receiving, some data points about their usage, and then also just we track also how much a video has been watched or the click-through rate of an email in order to make sure that that EBR is being received, because we'd hate to be doing something just to do it. That's another pet peeve of mine. Don't do an EBR just to do an EBR. You should be tracking what the outcome is of that EBR. So we definitely track, open rate of our emails that we do send for our scale customers.
Good. So it's same content. It's all about how you deliver it. It will be different in terms of delivering. You mentioned that you track the open rate of the email. Can you track the open rate of the click rate of the video?
Well, some video providers do actually give you like, how much of the video has been watched through as well. There's, I think Vidyard does that, but also Cast App does it as well. So I think there's a few different applications out there now that definitely cater towards digital CS or just digital way of delivering content. So you can definitely watch like where they drop off or where they're engaged. And some of these different applications that you can use for video also keep people engaged by polls and things happening in the video, so that you act much like you'd ask a question to your customer in the middle of an EBR. The same thing applies to some of this video content that you can also create these days for scale EBRs.
Good, interesting piece of content. Good. Vincent, what's your opinion on that? How do you QBRs at scale?
I think first thing at Spendesk, we are targeting a lot of small and medium businesses. So basically, we have a lot of customers we have to go after and engage regularly. The first thing we did is actually, okay, QBR, but does it really have to be every quarter, or can it be like every 6 months? And I think you have this flexibility. You have to make it relevant based on your product roadmap, how many things you are shipping, how is the partnership progressing with the customers. So you don't have necessarily to make it every quarter. So I think that's the first. And the second thing we came to realize that a lot of time on QBR is actually the preparation of it. like finding the relevant insights, pulling out the right analytics report, etc. And on this side, what we did at Spendesk is to automate to a maximum the presentation. So we don't spend so much time in preparing the QBR, and we are able also to gain some efficiency and to do more often this type of exercise with customers.
Okay. Morika, how does it work at Permutive?
We're a little bit, I guess I'm listening to Anika and Vincent, and I'm just taking everything in and learning, because I'd said that at Permutive, we're at the start of our scaling journey, and all of our customers are relatively high in touch in the fact that we engage with them proactively, and everyone has an assigned CSM that they speak to at a regular cadence. The one thing that I would 100% subscribe to is this QBR every quarter. Frankly, I think it's a relatively unrealistic notion. Like I'm yet to see a company where the customer success team can confidently say, yes, we speak to every customer every quarter and we do this big QBR. And then if you think about, like, if you are senior customer success manager, client partner, whatever, and even if you're only managing 10, 12 accounts, if you have a QBR with them every quarter, 60% of the work that you do will be prepping for those QBR. So it's just unrealistic. Think about one of the things that I found working really well for us is to think about when it makes sense to have a QBR in that customer's experience and journey, rather than according to when your last QBR was. Oh, it's been exactly 5 months since we had an executive business review, we need to have another one. Now think about what you're actually doing with your customer. For example, we just finished a big project for one of our customers, The Guardian, where we did a lot of bells and whistles for a project that they were working on with one of their customers that we really helped them on. We did a bunch of publicity with them. We did a couple of events. And then once everything was wrapped and we actually had the data on how well this marketing and this effort has performed, then we had an executive business review. And it had been 7 or 8 months since we had our previous one, but it just made sense because we had experience to discuss. Our stakeholder had something to bring to the table and talk to their bosses about. And this is like, it was a much more fruitful discussion than if we had tried to find time within, like, in the midst of all of those projects. So think about when your QBR can bring the most value, and maybe that's not every quarter, maybe that's a little bit less often, but in a more poignant times in that customer's experience.
Cadence is thanks for bringing and touching upon the cadence of QBR and realistic cadence. Good. Now let's talk about how we prep for a QBR. So Vincent, how do you successfully prep? What are the key information that you prep ahead of the QBR and you really want to make sure that you have before going to the QBR?
I think I try to collect two sources of information. First, internal information I have on usage, adoption of the product from the customers. And what I like to do as well is to collect a lot of external information. So news about the customer. So are they launching a new product? Are they opening a new office? I've just raised funds. So you want to have this insight first. And the second thing I like to also look at systematically is also review the stakeholders who will be around the table during the meeting. Make sure I know each of them. At least I've been able to check their background, what they have done before, what is likely to be their agenda, because then in the meeting, I would say more precisely who you are talking to, how to engage them, what will be important to them. And you are more relevant in the discussion because you know what is at stakes for everyone. And I think preparation is the key to be successful then in the discussion. So work need to be put before the discussion.
Prep is key. Anika, anything that you look at before and then you look at for your team?
Yeah, I would echo a lot of what Vincent already said. The way we do prepare, though, is we align with our product team. I definitely feel like customer success and product need to be best friends in order to deliver value to your customers. So every single time any of my CSMs prepare, we definitely look at product usage data, which is obviously very important to show like how much a customer has progressed with your tool or software, but we very much also look at the future and we align with our product owners or product managers to make sure if a customer is giving certain feedback that they want certain feature functionality, or if, you know, they have a certain use case with our product or using a certain module, if we are advancing that module or moving it forward, it's good to get our customers excited on a QBR for that, because it's obviously naturally going to encourage the renewal or encourage more product adoption down the line. So I'd say the prep for us is really product heavy. A lot of the other information would be there within your CRM or your CS tool of choice, which is around like your renewal date, how many seats they're actually utilizing. A lot of that also gets talked on, but usually the CSM is aligning with product to get as much homework as they can on what's coming up to deliver value to our customers.
Good. Morika, anything you would like to add? You don't have to.
I think Vincent and Anika touched on everything. There's just one thing that I would add, apart from thinking about the prep for the actual presentation. It's good to think about the prep for your internal teams and who is on the QBR or EBR. On our end, we usually have the customer success manager, the solutions architect, and as Anika said, we have an executive, maybe somebody from the product team. I would avoid inviting people to your EBR unless they're playing a role. Inviting somebody to sit on the EBR is not very valuable to anybody. So one of the things that we do at Permutive is we put together a preparation sheet for the attendees, and the CSM sends that 24 to 48 hours ahead of time, and it lists who is who on the customer side. What are our internal goals for this QBR? So do we want to drive a certain objectives? What do we want to achieve? What are the customer's goals? Any risks that we have identified? And it also lists out the specific role that we want everyone to play. You probably want your executive to take some of those tougher questions and to push, or maybe you want them to show support in a particular initiative. Maybe you want your solutions architect to step in when you're having the more technical discussions. Make sure that your team knows what role they're playing, because otherwise you'll find yourself orchestrating a big room of people, not only from your customer, but from your own side. And it always looks a lot better when you're coherent as a team and you're delivering the same message.
It's a good tactic. Thanks for sharing. Next question for you three. In your opinion, what are the top 3 QBR faux pas? And you can have 1, 2, if you have 3, that's amazing. Anika, do you want to start?
Yeah, I think we already touched upon this earlier, but I absolutely hate that people have QBRs to have a QBR as a tick box assignment. And I think Morika also said it, like there's very few CSM teams that say they're going to have a quarterly business review 4 times a year, because we have 4 quarters. I don't know any company I've worked for or anyone I even know that said like, yes, I have to tick a box and do a QBR every single quarter. I think a QBR or an EBR or a business review or whatever you're calling it in your business should be done for like, value, rather than just to say to your manager or to your executive team, yeah, I did a QBR 3 times with this client. Great, but what was the actual outcome of it? Did they adopt? Did they renew? What happened after? So I think the biggest faux pas for me is more around, yeah, we did a QBR. Okay, cool, you did it. What happens next? So yeah, that's from my side.
Yeah, that's good to hear. Thanks for sharing. Vincent, anything like that?
I would think it happened a few times to me, is that the wrong stakeholder around the table. I don't know if it happens to you as well, meaning you want to have a strategic discussion and you don't have any executive on the customer side. You have to tackle a specific, very operational topic or technical topics, and you don't have on the customer side the relevant stakeholders. You can do the mistake also on your end as well, a specific topic, and you don't have the right product manager to discuss it. So I would say, yeah, make sure before the meeting that you will have the right stakeholders to address the relevant topic, because otherwise you can have a proper discussion and then it can be very difficult and challenging during the meeting, because you are not at the same level of discussion or don't have the right context or knowledge basically to discuss these points.
Good. So it shouldn't be a tick box exercise. Make sure you've got the right stakeholders during the meeting. Another top advice from you, Morika.
For me, it's I guess 2 things, but they're under the same umbrella. The first one is, and I used to make that mistake, think that the mistake is that if you go into a business review thinking that you should only be talking about the things that are going well, and shying away. Like I remember a little bit earlier in my career, we'll be prepping a QBR and I go, oh, should I mention this thing? Because we're not doing that well on this goal, or we messed up with this product release. Maybe that's not the right time to talk about this because we want to showcase how well we're doing. I think that's the wrong approach. Having all of those executives in the same room is the exactly right place to talk about where the opportunities for improvement are. The other thing is also, if you're an executive and somebody sits in front of you and tells you how fantastic everything is going in a partnership, you might get a little bit suspicious. It's impossible that everything's going smoothly. Talk about the things that can be improved because you have the right people to help you do so. That's the one thing. And then the second one related is not asking the questions that you are there to ask. And specifically, I think, at the end of the day, a business review or an engagement on such a high level with your customer is there to show you, will they renew? Or what is their key feedback? If you want to know if they're going to renew, ask them. We have a bit of a, not a rule, but a best practice at Permutive that at the end of every business review, we ask if your renewal was tomorrow, would you renew? And then if not, why? You can put some people under the spotlight, but you can prepare them for that question, and your customers are going to start getting used to it. There's nothing more relieving than the customer saying yes, and there's nothing more empowering than the customer saying no, because you now know where to focus your efforts and what to really work on. So I guess the rule of thumb is ask the hard questions, go to the uncomfortable place, because that's where progress comes from.
Good. Ask the question. Don't be afraid to ask a question. That's a good one, Morika. Thank you. Last question, because we have got lots of questions in Slido. So that will be the last question for me. What with COVID, what do you think were the key changes, and what are, so did you see any changes in the way you prep or you deliver the QBR? What there positive things maybe out of this particular time? Morika, do you want to start?
Yeah, I don't think we've changed how we deliver QBRs massively. Obviously, we're doing it now online, but I think we were very worried about how, like, the lack of human face-to-face communication would affect our relationships with our customers, and it was a little bit uncomfortable at the start. But what I've actually found is that it's fine, and also specifically for our global customers, I think that it's brought global stakeholders at a little bit of a level field, because before, we'll have a business review and half of the stakeholders would be in the room, half of the stakeholders would be on Zoom. And we're not actually, it's always a little bit more difficult to bring in someone who's in the US via Zoom when there's so many people in the room, like, taking over the conversation. So in some ways it has kind of leveled out and improved our engagement with global customers, but I think that generally we've adapted quite well.
Good. Anika, what's your opinion?
Yeah, I think also the same. I think everyone moved digitally or moved onto Zoom. So nothing's really impacted, I guess, the way we kind of interact or deliver this. But I think the one thing we've noticed and changed is, again, inside is a community-based platform. We noticed that a lot of our customers are interacting with each other as much as they are interacting with the staff or with the CSM or product or support. So I think that a lot of things have moved into a space where we're all busier human beings. We're all balancing work-life home balance. Not everyone attends every EBR meeting because there's 70 Zoom meetings in the calendar, but we are seeing a lot more interactions from customer to customer. And yeah, we're just seeing a lot more of community-based conversations, and our customers are more keen to know what other best practices are coming from other customers as well. So, and now that we live in a digital space or more of a digital world where you don't have to put customers at an actual round table. In a boardroom, you can actually have people interacting online. The one thing we've seen change is a lot of our customers asking to be introduced to customers that they normally wouldn't engage with, like customers in New York want to now speak to customers in Australia, and so on and so forth. And we're finding that it's actually easier to have those conversations because we all live in a digital, more online space than being in a boardroom with all our customers. So I think that that's the main change.
Okay, that's a positive thing. The customer can now are more eager to speak with other customers. That's a good thing. Vincent, what have you noticed?
Exactly the same. I think regarding the connection, they wanted to know, okay, what others are doing. Are they going to thrive through this period? Which I think was interesting also at the very beginning and during the first few weeks and months, where we had a lot of uncertainties like nobody would knew where we were heading towards. And I think it allowed also to open room for more personal discussion, like caring more for each other, like getting to understand what is their setup, what is how are they doing more personally. And I think it allowed also less transactional discussion or less business-oriented discussion to have some space at the beginning, probably longer than usually, to connect as well with people more personally, which I think was important and is important, but was especially important at that time. And I think it's something also I remember I take away to continue to pursue in future discussion, even if the situation is improving. The situation is still complex, and it's important to connect at personal level.
Yes, good point. Thanks for sharing that, Vincent. So now we have different questions for you guys from our audience. The first one that we have is, what kind of presentation methods do you recommend or have you experienced success with? Slides versus no slides? Anika mentioned video. What are your methods? Who wants to start? Anika, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. I think I mentioned already video as well, but I do think a combination of putting something on slides is very important. But remember to have a conversation with the slides. Not everything should be just like 30 slides and then you just running through all of them, because it's never going to provide value. We also have seen some success with slides in combination with a demo when we go into the product roadmap and what we're kind of expecting. So a lot of times we'll have like beta features or features that aren't released yet, and we want to actually show and tell. So if you are doing slides and you are also talking about product roadmap, I would recommend doing a bit of a show and tell where you first tell them all the value points of why they should be using this feature functionality, and then showing them as well. So a combination of both. And then the video, I think, is something new, but I think it's something that a lot of people are going to transition to as well. We've seen success with video in regards to email open rate. And then also we're kind of just testing a few different ways that we create this video. Like I said, we use Cast App, Vidyard, and also Canva in order to create some video content as well. So I think testing those things are all good, but tracking the data and making sure that customers are actually opening it will be very valuable as well.
Sure. I feel like, Vincent, you echo what Anika just said.
Yeah, I completely agree with. I think, especially as we are in remote, it's sometimes even more challenging to engage your audience because sometimes people are just, behind their screen and can be lazy to engage. So if you put too many slides and a lot of content, sometimes it can be difficult to follow. So I like to think that animating with a bit of live demo, engaging really in a discussion and not having too much content on slides. It's really important to engage remotely your stakeholders.
Good. Shall we move to the next question, or Morika, you want to add something? Good.
I think they
so the next one is about bringing value. Yes. What about maybe upsell? So are you trying to upsell during the QBR? So Morika, you talked about let's not be afraid to ask the question. Is it also an opportunity to talk about upsell?
It would very much depend on your business and your relationship with the customer. I would say the QBR is a good time to uncover opportunity and to discuss where that opportunity goes. I would probably steer away from making it too sales driven, because I guess keep on thinking about why you're there. You're there to give your customers things that they can't otherwise see. Like there's always going to be time to discuss the pricing of something, on how they buy another feature. If you're in a QBR, I think that it's a lot better to talk about the opportunities and the problems that a certain feature might solve for them. I would leave the commercial conversations as a follow-up, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Anika, Vincent, do you have an opinion on this one? The upsell.
I would say that your job as a CSM is not directly to upsell, but I'm actually going to steal this from Wayne, who was on my podcast recently. He said uptell. So rather than upselling, you should be telling your client of like opportunities or things that they should be using or can be using, or an opportunity of where, you know, they're maybe not utilizing the product as much as they'd like to be utilizing it. So I think a QBR should be the opportunity to actually say where the gaps are and what they can be using and what maybe they're not using and what they can use a bit further. I don't think, unless you're up for a renewal at the same time of your QBR, it's not necessarily natural to bring up those conversations in a QBR because you're always trying to show value. And naturally, when you do show value and you are saying, hey, you guys are utilizing us so much, or we see so many different new stakeholders on this call that are also using our product, is that the future of what you guys are looking to do with our product? What do you guys kind of see 6 months or 1 year down the line? I think then it naturally gives you as a CSM more reason to come back to a commercial conversation later. But I think using a QBR to at least pulse check on how they're currently using your tool and also what their future of using your tool or software is a real good indicator of future commercial conversations.
Good. It's still an opportunity. Okay. Vincent, do you want to add anything on this one, or do you want to move to the next one who's did it for you?
Just one comment. I fully align with what has been said. I think QBRs are more here to uncover opportunities and to start a discussion. But I think if you want to put too many topics in the agenda, in the end, you won't be able to do everything properly. So trying to mix upsell with roadmap discussion, usage, etc., in the end can be really challenging. So I would really disconnect the two and follow up in separate meetings to have the commercial discussion if upsell can be done.
Good. So the next one, Vincent, for you. What tool do you use to automate your presentation? So you talked about automations, and can you give example of what is automated, what is not automated from Rari?
Yeah, thanks, Harry, for the question. Well, the first thing is for automation, we have coded internally, our tech team did it on their own. We use Looker for data visualization, and to prepare the presentation, it's Google Docs, so very straightforward. And to do the transition between both, we coded internally. But I know when we had this idea, there are tools, so I can try to find it afterwards, that are doing this automation that I think we can work with. In terms of example, what is automated and what is not, obviously what you can automate is pulling out the dashboard, the graphic you want to put in the presentation. However, what needs to be done, and this is where the CSM or your data team came into place, is to bring the insight, because I think this is where the value is not just not putting a graphic on a slide, is trying to find a message, a relevant insight for the customer. And this is where you need the brain of your team to do it. And this is where they will have a lot of value added.
Good. But there are things that you can automate. Good. The next one is for you, Morika. Do you have a template for your internal prep sheet that you can share?
Yeah, I'm happy to share that. Maybe, Alex, we can include it on Workspace or?
Yes, we'll follow up in the CSN network anyway, so we'll probably add this in the community, and I will follow up with James. Thanks, James, for asking. Anika, you mentioned measuring outcomes for QBRs and EBRs. How do you recommend measuring the outcomes of these activities with high-touch customers?
Yeah, definitely. I think if you are high touch, you should have a success plan in place. This should be in place, honestly, from pre-sales and kickoff call. We definitely measure our success of our clients based on the outcomes that they want to do from day one. So we obviously have 3 use cases for our software, and we usually ask our customers to fill in a questionnaire at the very beginning. So once we have the sales to CS handover and the initial kickoff call for onboarding, we ask our customers to tell us what are their goals or what are they hoping to achieve with our software. And then throughout each QBR, we're tracking to those goals as well. We use metrics to track against those goals to make sure that we are data-driven to show ROI as well. But usually in an EBR, we'll present that success plan to talk about, this is what you shared with us in the very beginning. This is what we're now at right now, and how to get to your goal in the future. We need to do X, Y, and Z, and we put the ownership onto our customer to also make sure that they're owning this, not necessarily just the CSM doing the legwork. And also what we like to say is when we are going through these activities afterward, what a CSM is usually looking for is more, let's say it's one part of our module or a new feature functionality. In our health score, we like to track if they are actually utilizing that new part of the product as well. And then by the time we have the next EBR, we then also show, hey, since the last EBR, you wanted to achieve this. This is where we've gotten to so far. So it's very much a training session to tell our customers, this is where you were at. This is what you told us your goals were and what you wanted to share with us before. This is where we are now. And then we do kind of like prescriptive customer success, where we prescribe what needs to be done next in order by the next QBR for us to see this milestone move forward, really.
Good. So goals review, as Morika touched on during the conversation. I'm conscious of time, so unfortunately we won't be able to go through the questions, but we can continue the conversation in the Customer Success Network. If you're not a member yet, please join customersuccess.network, and I will follow up also with James, Ash, and Roger. You can also follow up directly with our panelists, I guess. Thank you so much, Anika, Vincent, and Morika, for taking the time. Before we leave, I'm going to do a nice screenshot of everyone. If you could put your camera on, that would be fantastic, so that it's for our social media lead. Thank you. 1, 2, 3. Yay! Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time this morning. And please, let's continue the conversation in the workplace community of the Customer Success Network. Have a great day, everyone, and do take care. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you.